Number 10. Terrence Howard. The actor is known for his captivating intensity on screen, and has certainly won him over with fans when he starred as Lucius on Empire, but sometimes art imitates life, and Howard's domineering character was very much a reflection of the actor behind him. His violent tendencies were pretty well hidden from the public eye until 2009, when the Smoking Gun reported that about 10 years prior, the actor was arrested for viciously beating up his estranged wife, Lori McGomis. Lori dialed 911 after Howard threatened her over the phone, saying that he was going to come over and hurt her, but it was too late because before the police arrived, he had already broken down the front door of her house and attacked her, punching her in the face multiple times. The actor was charged and pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct, but the incident wasn't a one-off. In 2000, Howard reportedly attacked a flight attendant for asking him to return to his seat because the seatbelt sign was on, and in 2005 he attacked a couple at a diner because they were seated before him. In the years following, he allegedly harmed multiple intimate partners in some of the worst ways possible, but it was a long time before any of these incidents got in the way of his career. Number 9. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a star of Terminator who eventually became the governor of California, so he definitely belongs in the world of the rich and famous. But few people know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a very different person out of the spotlight. While he was married to veteran NBC journalist Maria Shriver since 1986, allegations of Arnold's behavior slowly began to surface, and suddenly his political career was facing ruin. In 2003, 15 women came forward claiming that the actor had them during his run for the California governor's seat. Then came the damage control. In an interview with Peter Jennings from ABC News, he tried to deny the accusations and insisted that no one ever came to him in his life and told him, "I don't want you to do that, and you went over the line." In fact, he went on to suggest that the women had actually timed the allegations specifically to match up with his campaign. But it gets worse. In 2011, an explosive Los Angeles Times report was published, revealing that Arnold had fathered a child with the family's housekeeper in the late 90s. It's safe to say that his marriage imploded because Maria filed for divorce on June the 2nd that same year. Number 8. Lea Michele. The actress and singer was the face of the hit TV musical Glee, playing the character we all love to hate, Rachel Berry. Her on-screen persona was harsh to say in the least, and could be extremely cruel when it comes to getting what she wants. But in terms of her overly ambitious character, it was actually a portrayal of how Lea was in real life, although she did an excellent job of keeping that hidden. It was in June of 2020, after the actress tweeted her support for Black Lives Matter, that she started being exposed for her true nature. Her former Glee co-star Samantha Ware called her out for hypocrisy, claiming that Lea made her time on set a living hell and threatened to defecate in her wig. Heather Morris also came out with her own allegations, quote, "Was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe she should be called out." Actor Keith Powell tweeted, quote, "Lea Michele is a terrible human and has said terrible things to many types of people, including racist microaggressions about black people." In light of the accusations of racism and bullying being made, the actress was then dropped from her partnership with the company HelloFresh and deactivated her Twitter account.
At number 7, engagement ring. Speaking of past partners though, let's talk about the time that Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande were engaged. Fans were a little sussed out when they learned about the timeline of Ariana and Pete's engagement, because it turns out that Pete had reached out to a designer about getting a ring for Ariana, suspiciously soon after he and Cassie David had split. Though news of the engagement broke in June of 2018, Pete and Cassie's split broke the news on May 16th, 2018, but according to celebrity jeweler Greg Yuna, Pete had hit him up about an engagement ring for Ariana at the end of May. That didn't leave much time between the breakup and thoughts about marrying another person. Fans thought that this was pretty suspicious and could prompt theories as to what Pete might have been doing behind the scenes. Perhaps this is a secret that Pete would want to keep hidden over risk of being exposed and cancelled.
Number 6. Tiger Woods. Even if you're not a fan of golf, you definitely know who Tiger Woods is, one of the biggest international sports stars of the last 2 decades. In 2009, he became the first athlete to earn $1 billion through a combination of prize money and sponsorships. He seriously had it all: a model wife, 2 kids, and of course fame and fortune. But in the same year, the National Enquirer accused him of having an affair with a nightclub manager, and Woods crashed his car into a neighbor's tree at 2:25 a.m. Why the reckless driving? Well, rumors circulated that his wife had learned about the affair and attacked him in their home, which made him too disorientated to drive. Over the next few months, many more women came forward claiming to have slept with Woods during the 8 years he was with her. He eventually caved to the immense backlash and issued a televised statement in 2010, admitting to everything. But it was way too late, and his marriage was over, and some of his biggest endorsements were pulled because of the scandal.
Number 5. James Lafferty and Alexandra Park. Another May wedding. This one took place between One Tree Hill star James Lafferty and Royals actress Alexandra Park. They got married in Oahu, Hawaii, but it appears that they don't want to share too much about the ceremony, as neither of them have shared any pictures from the wedding on their own social media accounts. They first met in 2015 when Lafferty directed an episode of The Royals, but didn't officially announce a relationship until years later in 2018, and the engagement was announced 2 years after that. Lafferty shared the news of the engagement in September 2020 with a selfie of them together in the kitchen with a caption that read, "She said yeah." One photo that we did get from the wedding came from La friend Hattie Preston, who posted a photo of Alexandra in a beautiful lace dress on the dance floor of the ceremony.
Number 4. Bill Cosby. The comedian was once known to millions as America's Dad, famous for his clean brand of family comedy and his award-winning work with children's programming. The Cosby Show, which was launched by NBC in 1984 and aired for 8 seasons, was his biggest success and established him as a household name. So when the first accusations surfaced in 2005, his public persona was so revered that he essentially walked away unscathed. It was only when other women, 13 to be exact, agreed to be witnesses that Cosby's double life was starting to be exposed. In the years following the first accusation, more than 50 women have come out claiming the star slipped them illicit substances and took advantage of them while they were unconscious. The women all had similar stories, which reportedly went back as far as almost 50 years. Finally, in April of 2018, the 80-year-old was found guilty of 3 counts of SA against Andrea Constand, the former Temple University women's basketball director, who claimed that he attacked her in his home in 2004. Some kind of justice was served, as the comedian was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. Although some of his defenders continue to support him, Cosby's name will forever be associated with his crimes.
At number 3, Tic Tacs. During a segment on SNL while Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande were still dating, Pete made a joke about his relationship with the singer and trapping her in their relationship, and this ended up causing more backlash than genuine laughter. During the segment, Pete was talking about how Ariana was the breadwinner in their relationship and how he was just living off her wealth, and made a joke that he was trying to trap her in the relationship so that he could keep living like that. Pete said that in order to keep her around, he switched her birth control pills with Tic Tacs, saying, quote, "Last night I switched her birth control with Tic Tacs. I believe in us and all. I just want to make sure that she can't go anywhere." This ended up causing some controversy because fans said that not only should Pete not be able to control his girlfriend's reproductive rights, but that it was also hella toxic that he joked about trapping her. This is probably one comment that Pete wishes would stay hidden, because judging by the fact that he is currently dating Kim K, people might think that he might pull a stunt like this again.
Number 2, Armie Hammer. Among the new stars who have recently graced the big screen, Armie Hammer really stood out. He had a wholesome image with an all-American crew cut and absolutely killed it in his role as the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. But it was his part in Call Me By Your Name that really made him a global star. Nothing is ever as it seems though, and he was very good at disguising his dark side. In January, a series of text messages were leaked of him detailing his fantasies of cannibalism. The actor also accused of attacking multiple women and named a suspect in an LAPD case which is still under criminal investigation. His former intimate partner came forward claiming that Hammer viciously attacked her over a period of 4 hours. And not long after, his wife Elizabeth Chambers left him and the facade of their perfect marriage fell apart. She has even called him a monster. The actor was then dropped out of 2 high-profile projects and is now residing in a resort on the Cayman Islands, potentially until the police investigation is concluded. And last one, coming in at number 1, Harvey Weinstein. He was once the king of the indie film world and the producer who dominated Hollywood for decades. Harvey Weinstein won awards for producing iconic films like Trainspotting and Pulp Fiction, but the truth is that he used his immense power and influence in the film industry to take advantage of women throughout his career. There were rumors about his predatory behavior, but they were not necessarily known to the general public. In fact, most people only found out about his double life after his downfall. The scandal exploded in October of 2017 when the New York Times released a report revealing that Weinstein had reached financial settlements with 8 different women who had accused him of predatory behavior. He had tried to squash the allegations with money, but as soon as he was exposed for doing so, his life and career crumbled around him. He was fired from his firm, the Weinstein Company, just before 13 other women came forward with similar claims. His wife, Georgina Chapman, left him, and in May of 2018, he turned himself in to the New York City police to face criminal charges. In February 2020, he was handed a 23-year prison sentence.
Number 10. Britney Spears and Sam Asghari. Pop superstar Britney Spears finally got to accomplish a long-awaited task that had been pushed to the sidelines due to her conservatorship. On June 9th, she got married to fiancé Sam Asghari at their home in Thousand Oaks. Apparently, they were able to turn her home into what she called a dream castle, saying that the day was a dream and the party was even better. Things were a little scary leading up to the ceremony, however, as her ex-husband Jason Alexander was arrested and charged with trespassing after breaking into the site of the wedding. This is in fact Spears' 3rd wedding, but it seems that she and Sam are very happy together and have been engaged since September after meeting on set of a music video in 2016. While apparently a small ceremony with only around 100 guests that were close to the two, it was certainly extravagant. Spears wore a custom Versace dress, which many were expecting, when it was revealed she had met up with the designer before the wedding was even announced. Number 9. Hale Ferguson and Oula Palve. Star of The Bachelor and The Bachelor in Paradise, Hale Ferguson just got married to Finnish hockey player Oula Palve. They were married in Las Vegas on Saturday, June 11th. After leaving The Bachelor behind, Hale met the hockey player in January of 2020, getting engaged shortly after in May of 2021. Her and her twin sister Emily, who also got engaged to a professional hockey player, shared a joint bridal shower and bachelorette party, but knew that they wanted to have separate individual weddings. But Hale did have Emily at her side as her maid of honor. Another interesting wedding guest was an Elvis impersonator, who Hale said she had there because it's Vegas and you just have to. For their honeymoon, they announced that they will be going to Laguna Beach and Los Angeles, as well as Universal Studios, as Palve is apparently a large fan of Harry Potter. In the future, they say they just want to enjoy being married for now, but ideally would like to have 2 or 3 children. Number 8. Mama June and Justin Stroud. Here Comes Honey Boo Boo mother Mama June has made the headlines a few different times, probably most popularly for her massive physical transformation, but this time she's the talk of the town after she had a courtroom wedding with her boyfriend Justin Stroud after they had been together for less than a year, 6 months to be exact. On June 1st, they announced their marriage and showed off their wedding band, saying, well, official Mama June and official Smalls are off the market. She said that when you know, you just know, and teased that their journey and love story will be featured in upcoming episodes of the show Mama June Road to Redemption. She went on to say that Justin has done a great deal for her, saying he put the pieces of her life back together, and she's apparently happier than she's been for a long time, and finally knows who June Shannon is after 42 years.
Number 7. George Michael. His talents as a singer, songwriter, and music producer made George Michael one of the world's biggest selling artists. He has sold more than 100 million albums throughout a career spanning almost 4 decades. But behind all of his success as a musician, George had a hidden life. In 1998, after he was arrested for alleged lewd acts in a public restroom, the star came out as gay. He told CNN, quote, "This is as good of a time as any. I want to say that I have no problem with people knowing that I'm in a relationship with a man." After years of refusing to be drawn on speculation about his sexuality, this was a very big deal for the singer. But he made no qualms about admitting how hiding his sexuality for so many years had taken a serious toll on his mental health. In fact, the singer suffered from severe depression after his partner died in 1993 from an AIDS-related illness, and only a few years later he also lost his mother. It was extremely extremely sad that it took him such a long time to live authentically, but he eventually became well known for his outspoken views in support of gay rights, using his arrest as a platform to highlight the prejudices within society.
Number 6. Shawnee O'Neal and Keon Henderson. Basketball Wives star and ex-wife of Shaquille O'Neal, Shawnee O'Neal got married to pastor Keon Henderson at the Aurora Anguilla Resort and Golf Club in May after getting engaged in November of 2021. She was also joined by her daughters, who helped her to get dressed and prepared for the big day. Henderson also shared his excitement about his wife, saying, "She's amazing. She's just the most laid-back, hilarious, fun-loving person. She's a woman of faith, she can dress, she can cook, and she can sing." Shawnee had been anxious about walking down the aisle after her father passed before the wedding, saying, "I really struggled with how I was going to get down the aisle. Losing my dad in the midst of planning this wedding was a lot, so my sons handed me off." The children were apparently a large part of the ceremony and had such a good time that they didn't even want to leave when it was over. As they look to the future, they apparently want to build a legacy together, and Shawnee said this new chapter of her life is all about growing and evolving.
At number 5, Staten Island. Let's stray away from the relationship drama and get back to Pete's comedy to reveal another secret that he might want to keep hidden. I told you about one of the jokes Pete made about a former veteran that didn't go over well, but here's another one that ended up offending his hometown of Staten Island. In 2012, a Category 3 hurricane passed through Staten Island, causing destruction and devastation in the area. Hundreds of people lost their homes and businesses, so with this somber aftermath, it probably wasn't the best time to be making jokes, though Pete ended up doing it anyway. In 2016, Pete ended up poking fun at the natural disaster that ripped through his hometown when he said, quote, "Hurricane Sandy should have finished the job when it landed in Staten Island," end quote. As you can imagine, the joke didn't go over well with those who were affected by the devastation. He later went on to defend his remarks when he said, quote, "To be fair, I was raised there and Staten Island should share some of the blame," end quote. This caused him to face a lot of backlash, and though this has all since died off, there's always the chance of it resurfacing to cause more trouble for the comedian, so maybe he would prefer if this scandal stayed hidden in the shadows.
Number 4. Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker. Keeping Up with the Kardashians member Kourtney Kardashian and drummer Travis Barker were married for what appears to be the third time in May of this year. They had first had a practice wedding at a Las Vegas chapel in April, and then their legal marriage on May 15th, before finally having their official wedding in Italy on May 22nd. They were surrounded by their loved ones, including all of their 6 children. They also took to sharing a few photos of their beautiful ceremony to Instagram right after the wedding. An interesting tidbit to share about their practice wedding in Las Vegas is that, similar to Haley Ferguson, they had an Elvis impersonator present. They were first engaged in October of 2021 in a romantic gesture where they stood in a heart made of roses and candles. It was then followed by a celebratory dinner with the family, which could be viewed on an episode of the Hulu series The Kardashians.
Number 3. Ellen DeGeneres. The stand-up comedian and veteran talk show host Ellen was nicknamed the Queen of Nice, with many people loving her signature catchphrase, "Be kind to one another," as well as her on-screen giveaways and vocal support of the LGBTQ+ community. But behind the curtain, Ellen was a very different person entirely. That all got revealed in March of 2020, when podcaster Kevin T. Porter asked people to post stories about her mean-spirited behavior, which completely opened the floodgates. The comedian was then slammed by past and present employees with accusations of enabling a toxic work culture when the cameras weren't rolling, and found herself engulfed in accusations of bullying behavior by not only staffers but past guests, with some insisting her mean nature is common knowledge among the Hollywood elite. DeGeneres addressed the infamous toxic workplace scandal that saw 3 of her most senior staffers axed from The Ellen Show. One TV writer claimed that Ellen required anyone who talks to her to chew gum from a bowl outside of her office first, and that she often sends staff home to shower if she thinks they smell. Because of the negative publicity she received, the comic has had to wrap up her hit talk show after 19 seasons on air.
Number 2. Ross Matthews and Dr. Wellington Garcia. RuPaul's Drag Race judge Ross Matthews married his fiancée Dr. Wellington Garcia in a beachside ceremony in Mexico in, you guessed it, May of this year. It was apparently the same place that the couple had met 2 years ago. show, and they exchanged vows in front of around 110 guests. They had been worried about how many people would actually show up due to it being a destination wedding, and had apparently stressed over where to actually hold it, since Matthews lives in Los Angeles and Garcia in New York. But friend Drew Barrymore apparently gave them advice saying, do it where you're supposed to do it, and the people who are supposed to be there will be there. And as it turns out, 110 of the invited 130 guests came for the wedding. Drew Barrymore also ended up being the flower girl for the wedding, after having joked about it with Ross Matthews on her show. Celebrity wedding planner Michael Russo said of the wedding, the profound love shared by Ross and Wellington was felt by all of those in attendance at their beautiful and touching ceremony. The two exchanged heartfelt vows against the picture-perfect backdrop of an epic sunset painting the Puerto Vallarta, Mexico sky. Number 1. Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Finally not a May wedding on this list, actor Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead got married in a small ceremony in April. The wedding comes after 4 years of them being together and having a son together in June of 2021. The source said of the wedding, it was a small wedding for family and close friends. They had an outdoor ceremony, it was lovely and joyful, the menu was farm to table. They are an adorable couple. They are pretty low-key and like their canyon life. They often hike and go to the beach. They originally met on the set of Fargo in late 2016, and afterwards both ended up divorcing their current partners. Winstead after 7 years of marriage, and McGregor after 22. Ewan McGregor is currently continuing his role as Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Disney Plus series, and Winstead is preparing to appear in the series Ahsoka.
At number 10, college dropout. These days, the status quo for many of us is graduate high school, go to college, graduate, find a job, and eventually die, right? Well, many of us are challenging that these days, and Pete Davidson is one of those people. Pete is one of the many celebrities who started going to college but eventually dropped out to pursue his dreams. Pete graduated from Xaverian High School in 2012 and ended up going to St. Francis College for a full semester before eventually deciding to drop out. The comedian said that he wanted to follow his passion for comedy, and so he left college to dedicate himself to his craft, making being a comedian his full-time job. He serves as a good role model to anyone looking to pursue their dreams as well, even though it can be scary, especially when it comes to anything in the arts. Like my mom always used to tell me, follow your passion and the money will follow you. At number 9, war veteran. We know that Pete Davidson is a comedian on SNL. We also know that Pete can sometimes go a little too far with his jokes. Back in 2018, Pete was making jokes about his opinion on the US midterm elections, and he was alongside former Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw for the bit. Dan is a former soldier who lost his eye in 2012 when an IED exploded. This was no doubt a traumatic event for the former SEAL, but Pete still decided to make a joke about it, though it didn't go over well. During the bit on SNL, Pete joked about Dan's injury, saying, quote, "You may be surprised to hear he's a congressional candidate from Texas and not a hitman in a porno movie. I'm sorry, I know he lost his eye in a war, whatever," end quote. Pete ended up facing some backlash over his comment, and even some of his SNL co-stars made comments about the nature of Pete's joke. Dan ended up getting revenge on Pete, as in the following week on the show he got to poke fun at Pete in return. Though back when this scandal originally happened, not that many people got upset, since he has now had his fame boosted because of Kim K. He risks having his past exposed again, and this scandal might be a secret that Pete wishes would stay secret. Before we carry on talking about some of the shady things that Pete Davidson doesn't want you to know about, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, suspicious social media. The most dedicated fans are always watching their favorite celebrities' every move. Nowadays, celebrities can't get away with much without having their fans expose them, and this is how it was revealed that Pete can be a little sus online. Back when Pete had just started dating Ariana Grande, fans noticed something a little off about the comments he would leave under his girl's posts. An example of this comes from back in 2016 when Pete commented under his then girlfriend Cassie David's post saying, quote, "I love you so much, Kaz, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I find new things to love about you every day." Fast forward to 2018 when he was dating Ariana Grande, when he left a comment on one of her posts saying, quote, "Hi, I'm the luckiest contest winner ever," end quote. Some fans found it a little weird how he used the word luckiest so much. It could have just been a coincidence, which is what I believe, but other fans thought that the word repetition could indicate that he was disingenuous with his thoughts and comments on his partners. This could be a stretch, but don't come for me about it, blame the fans. Pete could want this to all stay a secret because fans might catch on to Pete's true nature if all that they're saying is true.
Number 7, Christmas Abbott and Memphis Garrett. If we're placing bets on the most unique names on this list, I would put mine here, as Big Brother stars Christmas Abbott and Memphis Garrett got married in May of this year. They got married at the State Railroad Museum in Savannah, Georgia, after originally meeting on Big Brother All-Star Stars in the summer of 2020. And while they didn't win the competition, it does appear they both won each other's hearts. They got engaged in 2021, and Garrett shared his excitement, saying, "We can continue to build our relationship and grow together. We have so much fun together and we complement each other. When you find something like that, you don't ever want to let that go. She is my forever girl." While Abbott originally wanted to have a small courtroom ceremony, Garrett had been the one to convince her to have a larger ceremony and allow more friends and family to be present and share in the love. He was also apparently responsible for planning the entire wedding.
At number 6, Cassie David. Pete Davidson's relationship with Cassie David, the daughter of comedian Larry David, was Pete's first high-profile long-term relationship. Cassie and Pete started seeing each other in May of 2016, and they went through a lot together. As any couple does, they had their share of struggles, but it eventually got to the point where they just couldn't carry on in a healthy relationship, and so they broke up in May of 2018. In 2020, Cassie published a collection of essays titled "No One Asked for This," where she opened up about her breakup with Pete, recalling the struggles that the both of them had with their mental health during their relationship. Cassie was devastated when she and Pete broke up, but because of Pete's struggles with his mental health, she had to do what was best for her and let him go. Cassie also exposed the fact that she and Pete broke up the day before finding out that Pete and Ariana were together. The end of Cassie and Pete's relationship was pretty painful, as you could no doubt imagine, coming out of a 2-year-long relationship, but according to sources, they are friends now and that works for them.
Number 5, Charlie Sheen. Known for his hard partying reputation and scandalous life, Charlie Sheen has been making headlines since the early 90s, but the actor had some pretty good PR and really managed to clean up his image after an alleged overdose that scared him straight, going on to marry Denise Richards and landing a comfy role on 2.5 Men. Sheen became a certified sitcom star and eventually welcomed 2 daughters, which really restored his reputation. But behind closed doors, the actor was back to his old habits and worse than ever. It was then that his marriage completely crumbled and the former couple announced that they were divorcing. During a bitter custody dispute later that year, she claimed that he had physically and verbally attacked her and threatened to take her life. As a result, she received a restraining order against him. He was subsequently kicked off 2.5 Men and replaced with Ashton Kutcher, not to mention his infamous 2011 meltdown where he attacked director Chuck Lorre. After that, Sheen's secret life became exceedingly public as he stopped hiding the fact that he had adult film stars over to his house and kept up his very hardcore lifestyle. It's important to note that through all this, he has checked into rehab multiple times for substance misuse and made very real attempts to get his dependency under control.
At number 4, Manchester joke. You guys might remember the Manchester attack at Ariana Grande's 2017 concert. It was a bombing at one of her shows that caused mass casualties and injuries. It was certainly no laughing matter, but Pete Davidson still decided to make a joke about the terrible incident, and as you can imagine, it did not go over well. Looking back on it, this is probably something from his past that he would have wanted to keep hidden because it was so controversial. In the fall of 2017, Pete made a joke saying that after this attack, Ariana should have realized how famous she was because, quote, "Britney Spears didn't have a terrorist attack at her concert," end quote. This joke didn't go over well at the time, but a year later when it resurfaced after Pete and Ariana started dating, Ari defended her man, saying that he was just using humor to cope with the tragedy. Fans still weren't happy about what was said, and now that Pete has even more clout because of Kim K, if this joke were to resurface again, he could face more backlash than ever before.
Number 3, Frankie Grande and Hale Leon. Reality star and sister to Ariana Grande, Frankie Grande got married to his partner Hale Leon in an intimate ceremony which took place at their home in Florida on May 4th. It definitely seems like May was a big month for celebrity weddings this year. They met at a line dancing bar in 2019, and 2 years later Frankie proposed. While at a virtual reality experience, a "Will you marry me" message showed up on the screen. Frankie said of the wedding, "It was the most beautiful ceremony, officiated by my incredible mother, and it brought us even closer together as we took our vows before our immediate families and before God." They wore tuxedos and drank sparkling cider and cut into a Star Wars themed cake for the ceremony, the whole wedding apparently being described as out of this world. Ariana Grande also appeared on social media to share her support for the two, saying, "Crying again. I love you both so very much."
At number 2, Howard Stern. There are just some things that you shouldn't share with the public about your relationship, and your intimacy is definitely one of those things. But Pete doesn't hold back with anything, and in 2018 he told Howard Stern about his private time with Ariana Grande. The comedian dished about the intimate time he spent with Ariana, saying, quote, "Anytime we're intimate, I'm always apologizing and saying thank you. You're awesome for doing this. Thank you so much." End quote. To make matters even more uncomfortable, Pete also talked about how before they were together, he would pleasure himself to the thought of Ariana Grande. It is a really weird and gross thing to say publicly, so this might be a comment that Pete wishes that he could to keep from the public because it could reflect badly on him and his new relationship with Kim K. And finally, at number 1, Spotlight. In the past, Pete has reflected on the fame that he has as a comedian and just as a public figure in general, saying that he doesn't always like having all eyes on him. With that said though, some people have called those comments hypocritical because of the fact that though he hates the spotlight, he enters relationships with A-list celebrities. Now that he's dating one of the biggest celebrities, those hypocritical comments could come back to cause controversy, so maybe this is something that he could have wished was secret.